and then let's move on from the Broncos to the LA Chargers. This offense was pretty solid last year, obviously enough to make the playoffs. Where do you feel like they really excelled, and where do you feel like people kind of, I guess not where people underrated them, but what stuck out to you as to why people were ignoring some of their better qualities?
I think this pass game was underrated. I think people look at a typical Greg Roman offense as super savvy in the run game, lots of heavy personnel usage like 21, 22, 12 personnel, sometimes even 13, right? Like a lot of heavy personnel usage. And they think, oh, this is a running offense, right? And they look at Justin Herbert and they see his numbers drop off from a couple of years ago. And they're like, well, yeah, obviously that would happen in a Greg Roman offense. But almost the contrary happened. They were 12th in EPA per play, so they were top 12 offense from efficiency standpoint. And they were 12th in EPA per dropback. Like, Justin Herbert was damn good in this offense as a passer. And he was asked to do things he hasn't done before in his NFL career, and he did it at a good level outside of being pressured, which we'll get into. Outside of that, they were 18th in EPA per rush, but I think that was more the personnel they had rushing, like J.K. Dobbins had a couple of injury concerns, but when he was healthy early in the season, he was doing great. Then they had to lean on Gus Edwards, Kamani Vidal, which are good players, but they're not going to push your offense to be top in the league in rushing, and that's what we see in their EPA per rush grade. So the passing offense was good, and the rushing offense was slightly below average, which is fine. But to help in the run game and make it better, they bring in Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton. And yeah, Najee's probably blind. Najee's probably not going to play this year because of the firework incident, but it was still a good process to add him to kind of add two better versions of Gus Edwards, right? And Kamani Vidal is a good spellback for Omarion Hampton. I think he has better receiving chops and is a better pass protector, where Omarion does have receiving chops, but his bread and butter is running between the tackles and hitting your crease and running over someone in the process. Like, that's what I think Omarion is really good at. I think he struggles a little bit with his wiggle once he gets outside of the tackles or gets into open space. We saw that at North Carolina, and we've seen it in the preseason multiple times. He's kind of like Tony Pollard, but a little bit slower. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that he's got more power and juice in his legs than Tony Pollard has, where Tony had home run ability. Omarion doesn't have that, but he does have better wiggle, better oomph on his runs than Tony Pollard does, and you'll see that this season as the Chargers go along. Pass games should be really effective. They've added a lot of really good pieces. Obviously, Ladd McConkey comes back after a really impressive rookie season, one of the best rookie receiving seasons we've seen in a good amount of years. He did good. Keenan Allen comes back as a veteran presence for some of these rookies and young guys. Trey Harris being one of the rookies who I think he had like 4.77 yards per reception, and against man coverage that went up to almost 6 yards per reception, which is just stupid. He didn't play all of last year because of injuries, but, is a good, fun, deep to intermediate option. Quentin Johnston, if he could ever figure out how to actually play with the 6'4" frame, would be a good receiver. And then as far as the tight ends, they got a deep room. Two veterans, obviously, Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin. Dissly more of that run-blocking tight end. Conklin more of that pass-catching tight end. But someone who I think is going to be a really good move tight end for them is Oronde Gadsden II out of Syracuse. He has really fun tape, and they are raving about him in LA. I don't think he's going to start, but I think in running downs, he'll be the second tight end. And if they ever do passing downs with two tight ends, he'll remain the second tight end, and they'll put in Conklin for Dissly, and they'll do that switch. And they'll have three tight ends that are probably going to command 25-plus targets each. Like, it's a good tight end room. It's really well-rounded out. And then, obviously, can't end the offense without talking about Rashawn Slater and a big loss that it's going to be losing him. But on the bright side, you have Joe Alt, who has left tackle experience, and that's what they're moving. They're moving him to left tackle. And Trey Pipkins, who is a backup guard, has right tackle experience. They're going to move him to right guard, and everything should stay the same. As long as Mekhi Becton stays healthy, which he wasn't able to do in his career until last year with the Eagles, this should be a fine offensive line, even if the interior is a little lacking. Bradley Bozeman is one of the worst centers in the league, or worst starting centers in the league. I was kind of liking the idea of the Chargers moving Zion Johnson inside, but obviously with the injury, they're going to keep him at guard. So this way Pipkins can kick out to tackle, and they can run their offense the same way they've been doing the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of targets.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of targets. So, like, where would you rank them among, just give me a general ballpark. Like,
yeah,
where would you rank them among the deepest receiving cores in the NFL?
I think this is the deepest, right? Like, and this is not including running backs. Like, I think the next closest team that we can talk about is, we'll talk about the Raiders because they have some guys that are pretty deep in the receiving room. But we just talked about, who did we just talk about in the NFC West? The friggin', the Seahawks are pretty deep. The Rams are somewhat deep. Maybe it was the AFC South. Oh, the Texans are really friggin' deep in their pass catching room. Yeah. Maybe that's the next closest team. Colts are in that category as well. Obviously in the NFC East, the Eagles always have guys who are doing really well. John Mechie is now in that receiver room. He's going to replace Johnny Wilson, who just got hurt, so he'll be really solid there. The Patriots, I know they're young, but they have a deep receiving room as well. Like, Chargers are definitely top 5 in terms of how deep and how differing these types of targets are going to be. And that's going to get the most out of Justin Herbert, not Justin Burrow. Jesus Christ. Happy Friday, everyone. But this offense is going to be really fun. I mean, you have really 9 guys you can attack, 4 receivers, 3 tight ends, 2 running backs, and maybe a 5th wide receiver that we'll talk about here in a second. Not to spoil anything, but I'm really high on the dark. Screw it. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about him. Your dark horse, Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Yeah, dude.
Another guy in this very deep receiving core. So what do you like out of him?
Yeah, he's had a stellar camp and has really made a name for himself. I know camp clips can get kind of, overfluffed, talked about too much, but I think this is a guy who could play right away. And until Trey Harris had a good second preseason game, he was looking like he was going to get runs with the ones, which I think is still going to happen at some point this season. But he transferred from Penn State to Auburn, and I don't know what it is about Penn State coaching staffs, but they just can't develop good wide receivers. He goes to Auburn, shines at his time in Auburn, and looks really good. Looks like a much better receiver. He's got good downfield speed and wins contested catches like no one else. And he's got short area burst. So if you want to hit him on a slant or a quick dig or a crossing route or a quick out, he's going to win in that area too. With Quentin Johnston's injury, I think he's going to slot in as like wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 early. If Quentin stays out and or Trey Harris doesn't pan out or Keenan Allen, they want to use him only in the slot as a sub for Ladd McConkey, KLS has a fast track to get snaps in this offense. And that's best case scenario. Like, I'm thinking maybe 400 to 500 this year, but those are going to be all impactful for the type of player he is and the connection he already has with Justin Herbert. I mean, I can't sing my praise enough about KLS. Again, he's probably someone in your dynasty league, where Corey Krosky-Merritt is gone, or Bill Krosky-Merritt as he's nicknamed. But Keandre Lambert-Smith, I don't know what it is with these hyphenated last name guys, but they're in abundance this year. And he's another guy that fits that rookie bill to, if he gets the opportunity, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Another solid group. So where do you feel like they can excel to kind of give this really deep offense some cushion here?
Yeah, I think this is one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, which kind of went unadvertised because, it's the Chargers. They're not going to get talked about for their defense based on history, but efficiency-wise, they were great. Jesse Minter out of Michigan ran a national championship defense, comes to the NFL, and basically runs the same exact defense, and it translated beautifully. They were 5th in EPA per play allowed and EPA per dropback allowed, and 9th in EPA per rush, one of the few teams to be top 10 in all 3 categories. And he did it running a shit ton of zone. They ran over 90% of their plays in zone coverage, and mainly in cover 4, cover 6, and cover 8. So obviously cover 4 is 4 deep players, but obviously that's with match coverage underneath it. So if you're a corner and your rule is to take anything short and your guy goes short, you trail him and someone else picks up your deep zone behind it based on the route progression, right? So they ran cover 4 21.3% of the time, which was the second highest in the league. And then between cover 6 and cover 8, which is pretty much the same coverage, but it switches based on offensive strength and what you call, they were at 13.3%, which was 7th in the NFL. So over a third of their play calls was deep zone match coverages, which is what Jesse Minor thrived calling when he was was at Michigan. And for those listening at home, cover 6 and cover 8, basically it's you take cover 4 and cover 2 and you split it down the middle, where in cover 6, the strength of the defense plays cover 4 and the backside plays cover 2. And then cover 8 is the opposite, where the strength plays cover 2, where you have one deep half safety, the corner sits at the flat, and you have 2 middle defenders. And then the backside plays cover 4, where you have 1 middle defender, 1 flat defender, and then 2 deep corner zones. So it's a unique defense to run that works really well in the NFL, especially in an offensively loaded division that the Chargers play in, which is probably attributed to why they ran so much cover 4 and cover 6. Compared to the rest of the league, but they were really good at that. They also wanted to trust their pass rushers to get home. They only blitzed just over 25% of the time, which is middle of the road in the league. But, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Poona Ford, Tierra Tart, Morgan Fox, is a fine pass rush unit. They have a couple of guys in there as well that are really solid. Tui Tulumoau, I'm going to mess up that name, but edge rusher out of USC was really good in year 2 as a designated pass rusher. But, the defensive line was fine, but now they've added more pieces to that. They added Jamari Caldwell, who's going to be a designated nose tackle for them out of Oregon, just an absolute space eater, can take up 2 gaps at a time, maybe 3 if he improves his lateral quickness, has that kind of run stopping ability. And is pretty okay in pass rush as well. Deshaun Hand, gritty veteran add there. He's played nose tackle, 3 tech, 5 tech. He's played wide 9 in some defensive structures. So he's got a lot of, experience, but he's probably going to be that over the tackle type defensive lineman. And then Kyle Kennard, who's pretty decent. I think he's a better run defender than a pass rusher, but, pretty solid rookie edge that they got, I believe, in the 4th round. So this defense really well rounded out. They obviously lose Christian Fulton, who was a perfect fit in this defense, but Tarheeb still was awesome out of Maryland last year and played really well in this defense. Got a lot of picks and pass breakups. If Cam Hart takes that next step, they're not going to miss a beat in the secondary. I think this is a really, really good secondary that's not getting talked about enough, especially boasting a 5th best pass defense EPA metric.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final question, I don't want to presume your answer. I think it's going to be yes, based on how we've talked about this team so far. But can the offense meet the quality of this defense?
In theory, yes. I don't think it does, just because of how this offense is run and being so run heavy that they're going to go away from the pass. If they lean into the pass more, with all of these targets, which I hope they do, because what's the point of having all these guys if you're not going to use them in some massive capacity? This should be the offense should be better than the defense, and the defense is really freaking good as it stands, right? So I hope that they do take it to that next level, and I hope they do push the envelope with giving this offense as many passing opportunities as possible, because Justin Herbert is a good passer. He's a good quarterback. Even though I've rethought my top 10 because of what I've researched with Jalen Hurts, I still think he's a good quarterback and is a more than capable NFL passer. Now you have the guys to weaponize that. Please use it and please do something with it, John Harbaugh and Greg Roman. I'm begging you. NFL fans deserve it. And Justin Herbert no longer needs to be if man. Just be the do man, please. Do something with all of this talent that you have.